Hi friends, welcome to my channel. Today I will review a book which recently got published only last month. This book is called The Scam That Shook the Nation. It is written by two writers, Rasheed Kidwai and Prakash Patra. Rasheed Kidwai has written books in the past about Congress Party, about Sonia Gandhi, and he is a fairly seasoned journalist and a Congress supporter. So this book refers to a scam which happened in 1971. And interestingly, this was a very bizarre, strange um, scam. I probably won't call it scam. I would call it a fraud, a kind of a prank, it seems. And it caught the imagination of the Indian media and Indian public. So let's go back in time. I picked up this book for two reasons. One was that I have interest in Indian political history and Indian cultural history, especially period of 60s, 70s and 80s that interest me. So that was one. And secondly, one of the protagonists, one of the lead characters in this scam actually was my father's friend and colleague back in the 70s, and I knew him. I mean, as a kid, I knew him, I remember him. So I had special interest in this book. So I was not aware about this book. I read a review on the print website. Print is on YouTube and they have a website. So I read a review and I immediately ordered on Amazon and it was delivered in a day. So let's kind of dive back into the 70s, early 70s. So this book is fairly well written. It is very fast paced. It is like a thriller, So this entire incident in the fraud took place on 24th May 1971. So just to give you an idea, at that time, uh, East Pakistan, which became Bangladesh, was very disturbed. There were a lot of violence that was happening in East Pakistan, and there was Mukti Bahini, which was fighting for a separate homeland, which became Bangladesh, and it happened in within 6 months. So it was very much in the news in India at that time. So it's important to understand the Bangladesh context because it will be featured in this fraud. So the fraud is very simple. It was 11:30 in the morning on 24th May 1971. It was a typical summer day in Delhi. And we are in State Bank of India main branch, which is located in Parliament Street, Connaught Place area. So the chief cashier there, Mr. Uh, Ved Prakash Malhotra, he is sitting in his room and he receives a call. The person on the other side says, I am P.N. Aksar, I am private secretary to Mrs. Gandhi. This is a very important call regarding a secret mission. You are Mr. Malhotra? So Mr. Malhotra nodded, yes, I am. So this person on the line said, you are in your room. Please make sure that there is nobody else. And if there is somebody in the room, ask that person to leave. So as luck would have it, Mr. Malhotra was sitting with one of the clients, an important clients of the bank, and he requested him to step out. And normally, Mr. Malhotra was very courteous and a nice person and very well liked by people. So this client was a bit surprised and taken aback, but he stepped out. So then Mr. Malhotra came on the line and he said, "Look, अभी मेरे रूम में कोई नहीं है." So Mr. P.N. Aksar, the other person claiming to be P.N. Aksar, said, Mrs. Gandhi will speak with you. There is a mission concerning Bangladesh for which we need secret funds. So Mrs. Gandhi will talk to you. And then a lady claiming to be Mrs. Gandhi came online and she spoke with Mr. Malhotra. By that time, Mr. Malhotra was in a daze because Indira Gandhi was a larger than life figure. And he thought that he was talking to Mataji because he used to think of Indira Gandhi as Mataji, like a lot of Indians. Though Indira Gandhi was actually quite young at that time, she was just 53. Anyway, so Mrs. Gandhi, or the voice claiming to be Mrs. Gandhi, said, this is a secret mission. Please do the needful as per the instructions of my private secretary, Mr. Aksar. Please follow the instructions. Do not make a mistake. This is a critical mission, very important for India's security. And then she gave the phone to PN Aksar and she said to Malhotra, please follow the instruction that Mr. PN Aksar gives you. And then Mr. PN Aksar came on the line and he simply told him, please take out 60 lakh rupees in cash, put it in the trunk and go to Freemasons Church, which was actually very close to the main branch. It is still there. Go to the church. There a person would meet you, and this is the code word. The person would say, "मैं हूँ Bangla Babu," and in response you will say this. And Mr. Malhotra nodded. Yes, I will do that. And then Mr. Aksar said that once you have done this, you have handed the cash to my person, the one I have deputed. You come straight to my office and collect a receipt for this cash. And then he put the phone down. After putting the phone down, Mr. Malhotra was in a complete daze. And he called his two assistants, told them that we need to take out cash. He did not give them other details because he thought it is secret, so he can't tell it to anyone else. And they looked at him and they said, how much cash? He says, let's go in. So the safe in the branch required two people to open it. So Mr. Malhotra and his assistant. So they signed the register, opened the safe, and then his assistant looked at him, कि कितना cash निकालना है? So Mr. Malhotra said 60 lakhs, and everybody was taken aback. 60 lakh of rupees was a lot of money in those days. It was a humongous amount of money. So Mr. Malhotra said yes. So the assistant did not really say much because Mr. Malhotra had a reputation, very impeccable professional reputation, that he followed protocol, he followed rules, and he had been working in the bank for more than 28 years. So nobody questioned him. He ordered the assistants to count 60 lakhs in VADs. In those days, they were 100 rupees, and said that, okay, put it in a trunk and give it to me. So this was in the morning around 11:30, 12. Then Mr. Malhotra went to his room, called the security and told him that I need a car. So security said, okay, no problems. I'll send the car with the driver. Mr. Malhotra said, no, I need the car without the driver. So the security person refused. He says, I can only give you the car with driver. Oh, Mr. Malhotra said, okay, fine, give me the car. So the car came and he asked his assistant to put the trunk in the car. As this thing was done, Mr. Malhotra grabbed the keys from the driver and quickly drove off. So this church is actually just like 3-4 minutes from the main branch. Very soon he reached there, and there he met a person. They exchanged the code words, and then as luck would have it, this person's car was not starting. And Mr. Malhotra said, okay, अब कार तो नहीं start हो रही, so I can drop you where you want to go. So this person said, okay, fine. So they both got into Malhotra's car, ambassador, and this person, who actually was a Parsi person called Rustam Nagarwala, and that's why the case is called Nagarwala. Nagarwala and Malhotra drove off, and Nagarwala said that I have to go to the airport. Palam was the airport at that time, and he says that somebody will meet me at the Air Force base, and I have to give this money to them, and then my job is done. As they were driving, once they reached Chanakyapuri, Nagarwala told Malhotra that, okay, do one thing. You go to the Prime Minister's house, collect your receipt, and you drop me at this taxi stand. I'll take a taxi and I'll go. So Malhotra thought, and he says, okay, fine. Malhotra got down, got him a taxi. Malhotra noted down the taxi's number and he left, and he went to Mrs. Gandhi's residence. There he tried to meet Mrs. Gandhi, and Mrs. Gandhi was not there. Parliament was in session. So he wanted to meet Mr. Aksar. He was not there, again in Parliament. So Mr. Malhotra was getting restless. And this is around 1 o'clock now, 1:15. And he knew one or two people in the security. So he told them that it is very important, very urgent. Please pass the message to Mrs. Gandhi. She is waiting for me. And please give the details that Mr. Malhotra is there from SBI. So this took about half an hour, 40 minutes. And security in those days was not so much in a prime minister's residence also. Her residence was at Safdarjung Road, which has now become a memorial. So, I mean, people could just go and meet the prime minister in those days. It was not like today, ultra high security. So, eventually, one person, one officer in Mrs. Gandhi's staff went inside and communicated to Mrs. Gandhi that this person has come and it is very urgent and he needs to meet you. And then he had told to this officer that I have given 60 lakhs because Mrs. Gandhi called me. And then Mr. Haksar got to know this and he got very worried. First he laughed, then he got worried. He immediately called up the police station on Parliament Street, told them that there is something that has happened. So please get cracking on this. There was no call made by me or Mrs. Gandhi. This person is at our office right now, Mr. Malhotra. Please take him right now and ask him, question him, and get cracking on the case. So the police official at Mrs. Gandhi's residence took Mr. Malhotra to the Parliament Street station and asked him what happened. By which time Mr. Malhotra got very nervous and very scared, and he thought that something has gone very wrong. So he gave the entire story to the police officer in charge there. A team was formed immediately because it involved Mrs. Gandhi's name. So they got cracking on the case. Now cut to the taxi which Nagarwala took. So he told the taxi driver that हम पालम नहीं जाएंगे, we will not go to Palam, we will go to Defence Colony. So he went to Defence Colony to meet one of his acquaintances and he met them. In fact, before that he also went to a shop in Connaught Place to buy 2 bags and then went to a deserted place where he transferred the money from the trunk to those 2 bags. Driver saw it, driver got scared and Nagarwala told him that don't be scared, I'll give you money, you keep quiet. And he gave him 500 rupees. And after that they went to Defence Colony. One of the Parsi friends of Nagarwala were there and they met him and there was some money which was 2,600 rupees which Nagarwala had borrowed from his friend. He returned the money. He says, okay, this is the money. I'm going out of town for 3 days. I've got these 2 suitcases. Please keep them in your room. I'll come back and take it. So these friends said, okay, fine, we'll take it. So also in between what happened was Nagarwala had gone to 2 of his other friends who refused to keep the suitcases. So that's another story, but let's not digress. So what happened was that this was happening. Nagarwala knew a taxi service in Connaught Place. In fact, 15 years before this incident, he had invested some money in this taxi service run by a Sikh gentleman, and Nagarwala was some kind of a partner there. So they respected him. So the owner's son was there, and Nagarwala told him that, look, I need a taxi now. I have to do a few things, and I also am leaving tomorrow for Ranikhet. So I need a taxi for 3 days, 4 days. So this person said no problem. So the driver is there. So this taxi that he took from Connaught Place in the afternoon, this is now 3:34. So he went and met some people, Nagarwala. He got his appearance changed. So he got his hair dyed and hair trimmed and he was looking different. While all this was happening, Malhotra's statement was recorded. Police were on the case. They had gone to Chanakyapuri. They got hold of the driver and driver told them the story. And the police started now fanning out. They were looking out for Nagarwala. Eventually, cut a long story short, Nagarwala was staying at a Parsi guest house on ITU. And at night when he reached there, by which time police had figured out that he'll be coming there and they caught hold of him. So technically the case was solved within 18 to 20 hours. And next morning police recovered the cash. So 60 lakh that was taken was recovered. In fact, the amount that was recovered was actually 59,000 something. So the shortfall was 3,000 rupees that was missing. That was it. So the entire money was recovered. No, technically the case should have shut down. Police tracked the perpetrator. Nagarwala gave the statement that I was in the bank. I had gone to change some money, some notes, some currency, and I had this naughty idea that I'll play a prank. So I actually called Mr. Malhotra from a public booth located in the State Bank premises itself, in the same premises. And Nagarwala demonstrated that he could impersonate the voice of Haksar and Indira Gandhi, which he did in front of the police also, and police were convinced. So the case was open and shut, right? But the way it panned out, the way it caught the attention of media and public, the way Mrs. Gandhi's name got dragged in, it was a sensational case. It was a non-stop media circus in the pre-internet days. Newspapers and magazines were covering it in detail. So remember, the case happened in 71, got cracked in 24 hours, and then it went on and on. Eventually, Reddy Commission was constituted. They heard people for like 5-6 years, and 78 when the case was shut down. Interestingly, Nagarwala passed away. He was arrested. He was put in Tihar jail. That's another story. And within like 7-8 months, 8 months of this incident, on 3rd March 1972, Nagarwala passed away because he had a cardiac condition. He was also fairly young, about 50 years old, and so logically the case should have shut down, but so many people got involved. Conspiracy stories about like this money was indeed meant for Indira Gandhi. She wanted to give it to Sanjay Gandhi, who wanted to set up a factory for Maruti, all those things, right? And it captured the imagination. People were talking about it non-stop. All kinds of stories were there. So this book does a good job of telling you, painting a portrait of India in the 70s. Correspondingly, there were other things which were happening. It gives the context of the 60s, late 60s and 70s, which is, I think, very enjoyable, very simple. So yeah, I enjoyed the book, and I can go on talking more about it. But I think, okay, I'll just talk for 2 more minutes. So Mrs. Gandhi became Prime Minister in 1966 when Mr. Lal Bahadur Shastri passed away, unfortunately, in January 1966 when he was in USSR signing a peace treaty with the Pakistani counterpart. It was a shocking news. Nation was stunned. Senior Congress leaders like Kamraj, like Morarji Desai, they thought that they will make Indira Gandhi the Prime Minister and she'll be puppet in their hands. So they decided. So Indira Gandhi was not very keen on being a Prime Minister. She had refused it once after Mr. Nehru's death. This time again she refused, but K. Kamraj, who was a senior Congress official functionary from Tamil Nadu, a kingmaker so to say, thought that he will make Mrs. Gandhi the Prime Minister and she'll be puppet. So Mrs. Gandhi became Prime Minister. 1967 saw the elections. Congress came back, but this was the first election where Congress got badly dented by opposition. Opposition came to power in many states, including UP. So Mr. Kamraj and Mr. Morarji Desai discovered to their shock that Mrs. Gandhi was not a puppet. She was her own person. She did not listen to them, and they realized it. Then Congress split took place in 1969, by which time Mrs. Gandhi was playing a lot of populist game. They making populist measures, implementing them, becoming popular. 1971 election she called 1 year before time. She had a slogan called Garibi Hatao, and she won that election. So she decimated the opposition, outmaneuvered them, managed to get majority in parliament on her own. The Congress party had split. So Indira Gandhi's faction, which came to power again. The right-wing people led by Mr. Morarji Desai somehow lost power. They could not really do well in the elections. And then 1971 onwards, things happened. Bangladesh war happened. This was a shining moment for Mrs. Gandhi. But after that, things went downhill. Economically, India was not doing well. Late 60s, we had food shortage, food riots. Early 70s, we had unemployment, a lot of industrial strife, student unrest in different parts of the country, from Bihar, UP to Gujarat. Prakash Narayan came out of retirement, and George Fernandez was leading railway men to strike. all kinds of things were happening, and then 1975 emergency was imposed. So very turbulent time for India. So this book will give you a ringside view of that time also. I like it, and I think India should have more such books delving into our past, because it's important to know about the past, to be aware of the past, to learn from the past, and so that we are aware that we don't make those mistakes. Like currently, we are making a mistake which we may have made in the 70s. Mrs. Gandhi had very populist economic policies which were disastrous for the country. But she was popular because there were slogans like Garibi Hatao and all of that. So the people who suffered the most because of those policies were her biggest supporter. And now also in 2014 onwards, we have a situation where NDA government led by Mr. Modi has been implementing one disastrous policy after another, and it's popular. People who are suffering the most because of those policies are the biggest supporter of the government. So yeah, I mean, it's important to learn from history. We should always learn from history. Anyway, I can go on and on talking about it, but it is fun reading this book. If you have some interest in the past, please read it. And yeah, thank you very much. This was a one take review. I don't know video editing, so I just do a single take review. So I hope you are patient and kind with me. I'll be bringing you more reviews of books about India by Indian writers, things that I love to read. So yeah, and I'm recording this late in the evening after I finish my work. So thank you very much for your patience and for watching the video. Have a nice evening. Thank you very much.